Yeah, we'll get.
We're up. Okay, let's start the Nantucket Conservation Committee meeting for April 16th, 2014, with our typical reminders to please turn off your cell phones and take any extraneous conversations out into the hall. We will start with the public comment. Anything from the public on matters that aren't before the commission tonight?
Mark Ritz from Site Design Engineering. I'd just like to briefly address the commission regarding a project we have at the end of Hummock Pond Road, 273 and 281, which was for wooden sand fence and sand placement. We've been hit by a number of nasty consecutive storms over the last 6, 8, 10 unending weeks, and while the beach on either side of our property has recovered quite a bit, smack dead center where the project is, we've got quite a bit of a cusp there, and we've also got one right at the end of Hummock Pond Road, making access a little bit difficult there right now. Currently, almost all of our placed sand has washed out. The beach has dropped significantly, and our fence is standing rather tall and proud at this point. I met on site this morning with Jeff Thayer from Toscana to discuss removal of the fence, and he is coordinating getting his equipment out there to do so probably within the next week or so, just so he can build up the access enough, get his excavators out there, pull the, fortunately we don't have much debris, just about everything is still standing. There are a couple posts that have come down, we'll pull those out as well, but pull all that stuff off site within the next week or so, and then at some point come back before the board to address going forward. But I just wanted to, we've been keeping an eye on it. We were hoping that the beach would recover a little bit more than it has so that we could address this differently, but the way conditions are out there, we just wanted to report that that's going to be removed hopefully within the next week or so.
Do you have an idea how many cubic yards of sand you guys lost? Have you guys seen pictures of this? It's really impressive. The fence is 10 feet up in the air.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
I can get a tally from Toscana of how much sand, placed sand was put out there. That's all gone. Plus, just as an aside, with the fence there, with the placed sand there, in a minor storm, not a whole lot happens. But in a good major storm, the beach washes out, and those fences and as far as they're a structural element do not seem to hinder the beach washing out. It's a really good event. So they really didn't deprive the system of any sand nourishment. The beach has dropped down significantly, and it's eroded up to the toe of the bank. We still have, along part of the installation, we still have kind of a veneer 3 or 4 feet of the placed sand with the planted beach grass on top. But just about everything that was placed is washed out, except at the very ends, really. So we'll be pulling the fence, and then we'll be coming back at some point to discuss. We're not going to be reconstructing right, at this point, but we'll be back before the commission at some point to deal with going forward.
That's very cool of you to come tell us. Yeah, do you see the pictures, or you patched?
Everybody got the picture?
Yeah, just to update to that, I was actually out. We were out with Hummock Pond today, and took a little walk down earlier, and it's about 6 to 8 feet off of the ground in most of the spots. It is. I would definitely, before they get a chance to remove it, if you guys have a chance to get down to the end of the road and go take a look, it's definitely worthwhile to see how the project sits and how it kind of left the area, and how the fence is still there. So it's definitely interesting.
And just to add a quick little bit, about a week ago when we were out there last looking at this thing, the eastern half, the fence was only undercut by about a foot or so, and the western half was problematic. And now, even today, the waves were rolling up there this morning like crazy. Waves out of the south were pretty severe from this last passing storm. So I think it took out even more, because now about 80–90% of the installation is between 4 to 8 feet. So you can comfortably walk underneath it. And actually, I was just out there this afternoon. There are a few big chunks of asphalt from once upon a roadway out there in the surf zone now, which aren't ours.
No.
But we'll be taking out the fence at any rate.
Previous roads.
Thanks, Mark.
Well, the reason I was asking about the volume is this is a great way to get, an unfortunate way for them, but a great way for us to get some data, because you know how much of the fence was covered on installation and then how much of it's exposed, and you get your feet lost and width of the beach.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, even if they, just measure the pilings and figure out what that is, you could get a pretty good guesstimate pretty close.
Yeah, I did a GPS survey at the top of the bank, and I tried to do one down at the toe to get that little slice of volume. But satellite reception was so poor at the bottom that I had trouble getting too many readings. I got a couple, but it's about a 20-foot drop at this point, and it used to be 8 or so.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
we've probably gone down a dozen feet. There's quite a bit of sand right offshore there. The waves are breaking maybe 70, 80 feet out, so it'll roll back in. But right now it's an impressive cliff.
As an interesting aside, when we were out at Hummock today, the area directly to the west of Hummock Pond, where the barrier beach is, it's actually probably the widest I've seen it in a number of years. It's pretty significant from that dune. There's probably, from the toe of that dune to where the waves were coming up to for high water today, it's probably almost 50 or 60 feet. So it's
Wow, that's good.
it's pretty wide for in front of Clark's Cove. And then it gets very narrow again, and then it gets wide. It's very scallopy.
We've got a long-term profile now at Cisco, right on the parking lot, that we've got 2 years of data. We're going to keep doing that. So we can start picking up a profile right where that loss is. If that's
That'd be great.
Turn this off.
Okay, anything else from the public? Okay, seeing not, I want to take a second to welcome our new Commissioner, Bam Lafarge. In case you don't know Bam, I think most of you probably do. He's taken over for Leslie, who stepped down, and I think you're filling out the remainder of her term. Is
That's
that
what they say, it's 2 years.
Okay, 2 years.
in June.
Okay.
2 years from July the 1st. So
A life sentence, in other words.
I like that. Yeah.
Says the
Must be
commissioner
good.
who sat on what's this year, second or third term.
Term, maybe fourth.
The recidivism rate, I guess, is kind of high here.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll go on to the public hearing notices of intent. And the following, La Bombard at 62 West Chester Street, Nantucket Islands Land Bank at 17 and 19 North Liberty and 8 Wesco Place, and Weed Realty Trust at 41 Almanac Pond Road have all continued to April 30th. Is there anybody here to speak to those items that can't come back? Of you, 4 or 5 people out there tonight? Okay, so with that, we'll go on to Andrews at 90 Matticat Road, or 190 Matticat Road, excuse me.
Mr. Chairman, if I could request a continuance on that, or just to allow the natural heritage time to elapse for comments, please.
We have about
Thanks.
a little less than a week left.
Okay, thanks, Art.
I haven't tried to get that one today.
Okay, unless I hear an objection, we'll continue that to the 30th as well.
Fast.
Okay, Crowder, 191 Eel Point Road.
As Mr. Bracken, yes. As Mr. Bracken is coming up, we were waiting on this one last time for natural heritage approval, which we have, not approval, but their letter, they have since provided that letter of no take and no adverse impact.
Okay.
We don't have anything else yet. We can discuss everything at the last meeting, just waiting for that.
Okay, any additional questions from the commission? And you're recused? Both of you? Okay.
And I don't think I'm voting, I'm not on it either.
Nope.
Oh, then,
let's start
1,
it.
2, 3.
Oh, did I miscount? Oh, this was Mr. Mike.
Mike's not here.
That's unfortunate.
Van, were you at the last meeting on the 2nd?
I did not, no, I mean, I wasn't sitting on here,
Well, I guess, thinking about it, I think this is one of those great rule of necessity ones where we don't have a sitting quorum because we were down a member. Bam wasn't on the commission at the time of it starting. And we have 2 members that can't sit on the application. That puts us down to 4. Obviously, that's our quorum number. So we actually, of the remaining 4, we have a quorum of those 4. So we have 3 of the 4.
So we can go forward with this,
Correct.
is what you're saying.
Sounds suspicious to me like the new math.
Yeah.
It is. We don't use it very often because it doesn't come up, but there are abilities. Just, I'll use an example. If you were in front of the Board of Selectmen and let's say you were in for, I'll use it, an aquaculture lease that happened to abut a property that Matt Fee owned, and Bob DaCosta and Toby can't sit on it for commercial shellfishing purposes, and obviously there gets a point where you can actually say by necessity they're going to have to either have to be able to participate, or you simply go with a quorum of the remaining members. So in this case, that would be what we are doing.
Okay. Well, if there's
Again,
no
I don't like to
questions
use
from
it,
the
but-
commission, anything from the public? And Crowder. Okay, Jeff, do we have everything we need to close the hearing? So commissioners, do I have a motion to close?
Move to close?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries with Commissioners Oaktai and Carberg recused, and
Yeah, the reason we don't get to use it very often is because it usually never comes up. But with Bam not having been on the commission at the time, and 2 people have to recuse.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
that's
rare
it
for me
for
to have to
notices
recuse.
tonight.
We kind of get stuck, but it is what it is.
so that takes us to request for a determination. Number 1 is Garrett Nominee Trust at 20 Monomoy Road.
For the applicant, Art Gasparo, Blackmore Associates. I'm before you tonight with an RDA to confirm resource area boundaries. There's no work that's proposed. What we have on this property is a combination of both vegetated wetlands. There's one small pocket here by the driveway, and then along the edge of the salt pond. And then we also have a coastal bank by definition as it relates to the slope and the intersection with the of the land subject to coastal storm flowage. So we've got a coastal bank a couple places, and we show the 25, 50, and 100-foot buffer zones to the delineation. So we'd be happy to try to address any questions that you may have, concerns with delineation. Delineation was done by David Hayes.
Okay. Jeff, did anybody, you or
Yes.
Bruce, review this?
We both did.
Okay.
And we agree with the resource area delineations that are in place.
Okay. Any questions from the commission on this? Okay. If there's no questions, Jeff, do you have a recommendation?
I recommend that we can issue this as a +2, confirming the resource areas that we discussed.
Do I have that motion?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries unanimously.
It's not a 2A, it's just a 2.
Okay, minor mods.
I'll have to flip it.
Oak Hill Investments LLC at 7 South Valley Road.
For the record, the RDA is the first permit that BAM gets to sign. I think he's a good one.
Well, I was just saying that on the first day of each new commissioners has always been a really short first day. It was for,
Make it easy.
it was that way for Leslie, and I think for Ian, it's like some kind of weird,
We need to get you guys to resign one at a time
Frequently.
and just come back on.
yeah, there you go.
Yeah, especially on certain hearings.
Yeah.
That's it.
Sort of microphones there.
Being in claim areas.
Once again, Mark Rich from Site Design Engineering, representing the applicants at 7 South Valley. What I've got before you this evening is a request for a minor mod, basically reconfiguring the way the pool is oriented. Originally, it was running more or less north-south on the property, and shed was over on the east side. What the applicant would like to do is reconfigure the pool east-west, move it further from the resource boundary, put in a shed/pool cabana south of the pool, and this is just one of those wooden shade structures with the wide spacing, slats. Nothing is going any closer to the resource area than was previously. There's a little bit of grading change on this side. It's all outside of the 50. No work any closer than was previously approved, basically.
Where was the pool before?
The pool before went this way, and the shed was over here. They've just basically rotated the pool, moved the shed/cabana here.
Yeah.
The original limit of work was the orange silt fence there, and that stayed the same. The grading has stayed the same in that area.
Is pool equipment shed in the same place, or is it?
There hadn't been one previously shown on the previous plan. They hadn't decided where they were going to put that yet. It's outside the 50. Nothing will be, drained into the wetland as is standard with.
That's actually a condition we have in the original order.
Yeah.
Can't be discharged into the...
No discharge into the wetland. We don't want to obviously change any of that.
It's just not more tempting with that there. That's more for the electricals.
It's more for the electricals, yeah, and just to have it out of sight.
Okay. Anything else? So, Jeff, do you have a recommendation?
Yes, I recommend that this qualifies for a minor modification.
Do I have that motion?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries unanimously. NHM Realty Trust, 77 Eastern Street.
Once again, Mark Ritz from Site Design Engineering, representing the applicant. You may recognize this formerly as the Point Breeze, now as the Nantucket Hotel and Resort. Last year, we were before the commission and received approval for an amendment to to expand a second-story deck along that long building that's in back, and to connect it up via an elevated walkway to the main structure and main pool deck area. I'm here before you this evening to discuss a reconfiguration of said deck and connection. Basically, previously we had been approved for a portion of the deck extension inside the 25-foot buffer shown here in blue. That's going away. Outside of the 25-foot, we'd like to make the deck a little bit wider. This is our originally approved connection to the main building. Outside the 50-foot, they'd like to connect the entire deck over to the main building, elevated. We are increasing the number of support posts, I believe, by 1 over what was originally approved, but they're all further back outside of the 25. It's all disturbed area with walkways and grading and landscaping currently. So basically, the main expansion is here outside the 50, shown in green, elevated connection, and also this little widening here from the 25 to 50, and this bit that's inside the 25 is going away.
So were the conditions attached to work in the wetlands last time, or am I getting confused?
Well, there was invasives removal, and the structure is where it's always been. And there was invasive. There's a small cottage next to this, and there were invasives behind that, and there was invasive removal and replanting of the buffer in that area, mostly knotweed.
How does that go?
As far as I've seen, everything was replanted, regraded. There's no invasives growing there at the moment, and they're maintaining the plantings that were permitted.
We should get a picture of that probably for our files.
I believe they got most of the plantings in fairly early, and then kind of over the tail end of last season, where they were working fairly fairly heavily back there last year still.
Okay. Any other questions from the commission? Okay, Jeff, do you have a recommendation?
Sure, I recommend that this being in keeping with a minor modification.
Do I have a motion to issue a minor mod?
Motion to issue minor mod.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously. Thanks, Mark. Okay, certificates of compliance. Squinto Family Partnership, 10 Long Pond Drive.
This was for the construction of a new sewage disposal system that's in compliance with our regulations to replace a previously existing system. The as-built provided in our site inspection shows that the system appears to be built in compliance, and I would recommend that this qualifies for certificate of compliance.
Do I have that motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously. Okay, orders of conditions. Here comes the...
Mr. Chairman, I understand from Jeff that I'm not sitting on any of these.
Correct.
So
Okay. Yeah, it's probably is better if you slide
That's
back
fine.
from the
Thank
table. If you're,
Yeah, I would definitely just see how it goes and how that discussion goes, Ben. And
I want to attend it so I can see if I can see it.
I swear. I'm getting tripped over, sorry. A mess. Snag one and pass something else. Going so fast, and I'm gonna have time to sit down and get stuff ready.
Not today.
The aerobic Concom meeting.
okay, the first one is the land bank at 260 Matticat Road.
All right, this was the one that was for the installation of the irrigation system. And the water main. The two conditions that we had talked about before that I included was number 20, that any damage to the culverts shall be, I have a grammatical error there.
Repaired in kind?
Yeah, it should be repaired in kind, sorry. In kind to the original culvert. And then we have on the, a monitoring report shall be provided to the commission on a yearly basis demonstrating the amount of water used by the irrigation system. Shall show which zones the watering took place, what we were discussing, so we knew if green number 3 was, getting 100 gallons of water, and green number 1 was getting 2 gallons of water, we would know.
Don't we usually have that? These are sensors.
Yeah, they included that in their
Narrative?
that all of them are based on moisture sensors.
We don't have to call it out then.
No, it's listed, that's the catch-all in number 18 for the waiver requests and protocols. If you would prefer it in there, you certainly
I
call it
would
out
just
separately.
maybe like to see in the reports just how well those sensors are performing, because I've heard that they can be problematic.
Sure. We can add so 21, which zones of watering took place, and clearly demonstrate the functionality of the moisture sensors.
Yeah.
As far as any damage to culvert shall be repaired in kind to the original design, or shall be just repaired in kind, period? Or
I think that would be fine.
I'm just trying to
Kinda
figure
hem and
out.
hawed. I mean, obviously, if the pipe is some sort of old, clay pipe or something that runs through there, obviously they're not going to be replacing it with a non-modern material.
Yeah, it
but-
should be repaired with appropriate materials, or I don't
Sure.
know. It just seems weird. I don't know what you guys think.
I think that's right, too.
Repaired.
Would it be just repaired with appropriate materials to the same size and dimension as
Yeah,
before?
that sounds good.
All right.
Materials to the same size and dimension.
think that's one of those where I knew what I meant.
Oh, and I knew what you
When-
meant too,
yeah.
but
I wrote it. It may not translate.
it
that
didn't come out.
Okay. Is everybody ready to go on this now?
Yeah.
Do I have a motion to issue as amended?
Move to issue as amended.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries with Commissioner Carberg recused and Lafarge not sitting on this. Okay, the next one is Crowder, 191 Eel Point Road.
This is the one we closed this evening. I don't have a lot of comments, but it's just the normal materials to be stored outside of 50 foot, and then the pool, if it's drained, has to go to somewhere outside of our jurisdiction, which is pretty normal. Other than that, I didn't really have a lot.
Okay. Two of
Yeah, it's just you three.
both. Okay.
So Michael's not eligible for this one either. Or 7 commissioners.
Seems pretty straightforward. Do I have a motion to issue as drafted?
Motion to issue is drafted.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries with Commissioners Oktay and Carberg recused and Lafarge sitting off. Okay, Oak Hollow Nominee Trust at 12 Oak Hollow Lane, portion of this.
This is the big part. Yeah, this is when we closed last time. That was for the construction of a garage, driveway, and then some grading and landscaping on little vegetated swales next to the driveway for some drainage areas off there. And everything was, no waivers are required for it. Everything was outside the 25 for vegetation and outside of 50 for structures. I simply included the materials to be stored outside the 50. And other than that, I didn't have a lot to add. This is against the local bylaw.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't even remember it, but it wasn't.
I have it with someone who wants to see the plan. Take a look.
We need a capital on the oak.
It was for, yeah, it was for this cottage. The proposed house is actually outside the 100 for the cottage, and then the driveway, and there's the 2 little vegetated swells.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Okay.
Next up, we're there. The wetlands here is the 25 and 50.
No, I thought it
This
was
wetlands.
useful.
Yeah, it seemed,
It was off to Hummock Pond Road?
Yeah, it's up right
Yeah,
off there.
okay.
It's right before you get to
Yeah,
Aurora
right.
Lane.
Yeah, if I mean.
It's that little, yeah, Brent Swamp Lane is
Yep.
right across the way.
Okay, there's no additions or comments. Do I have a motion to issue as drafted?
So moved?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries with Commissioner Lafarge sitting out. And Mackenzie and Hughes at 4 Swain Street.
All right. This is the one last time, remember, this was the one that Paul had presented. That was for the construction of the shed behind that house on Strain Street, where there were the 2 options, A and B.
Oh, yeah.
And the
Oh,
little
yeah.
tiny Phragmites pocket. That's the wetland that's there. The only condition I had is we had talked about the which location. We never really came to a decision, so I included the condition that the shed may only be placed at one of the locations on the plan of record, and the commission must be notified in writing prior to its construction of the final location. So, when anyone to, like, well, A and B were okay. Let's do A and B.
Yeah, let's do this.
So, I thought I would try to address that. Then the waiver is just kind of the text of the regulation, and then that with the site conditions, if there's no adverse impact, that's there. But other than that, I couldn't really.
Yeah, that seemed pretty straightforward, too.
I just wanted to be sure I got one in that made sure that they had to
Yeah.
pick.
Yeah.
So,
Keep old Paul in line, you know.
Yeah.
he's tricky.
He's,
Yeah.
I'm on
It's
to
always
it.
the quiet ones, yeah.
Do I have a motion to issue as drafted?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously.
This is the greatest pen ever.
Okay,
Sorry, but that's it for orders.
that's it.
It's
Wow.
so sad.
Bam, your good luck. Meetings are quick.
This is definitely a record.
I've been having like this for a long time.
The next one will definitely not be like that. So soak it in now.
Okay, so that takes us to other business, I guess. Huh?
Thank you.
Reports. CPC.
CPC had a special meeting the other day. It was kind of the sort of limits of authority that individual members would have when it comes to overseeing projects. And it was, I think, accepted that under DOR regulations that the oversight should be the equivalent of project manager being informed every month of how a project is going. So, and then we're meeting, I think, this coming Friday to discuss whether or not it would be a good idea to have sort of term limits on those who oversee projects, so that for 2 or 3 years, and then someone else from the committee steps forward, and that's considered, whether it's good for the committee as well as means that no particular individual gets too attached to the project.
That sounds good.
We'll see how that meeting goes.
Just wear your flak jacket.
NPNEDC.
We had a meeting, but nothing of real importance, just financial stuff. I mean, they talked about the public, public forum stuff for the bike path, the in-town bike path and the railroad bed. Seems like they're going to have some issues with the HGC, but on aesthetics, Linda was quick to comment.
Still got issues with those two. So.
Do they
Yeah.
understand that they might have issues with the Concom on that, or?
We had mentioned there was some issues there, and I had mentioned to a couple of members the theory of a pipe being under there, and some of them said no, there isn't, but that might be worth finding out about.
That'd be worth knowing about, you know.
That'd be bizarre.
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't doubt that there's,
I wouldn't doubt it.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think there's some buried clay drains.
Yeah, I mean, I think with the HCC, and it's interesting, I mean, I don't know if Linda was actually speaking for the board particularly, but they don't like the idea of the abrupt ends with the steel. They don't want to see the steel, so they may be thinking something that's a little more fared off, which would be more filling of a wetland, so we'll see. Like we said, we didn't get into deep discussion on it, but this may come up.
I walked it this morning, actually, with
Nice.
mine, and I have to say, it's sort of rather pleasant the way it is.
I know.
And-
I can see I can see why people wouldn't want to.
And it's hard to say the delineation of where the wetland begins in many parts and where, because it slopes off on the eastern side, it sort of slopes off very gently as opposed to the Consu Spring side where it's steeper.
Yeah.
I'll make it one and walk it.
Yeah, I should get down there, too.
Yeah.
We'll see how that develops. I can see why people would resent the more slick, perfect.
Yeah. And I think the Historic Commission is also.
Yeah.
If you'd like, we can certainly add it to our regular field viewing list.
I think we
That would be
should.
good, yeah, we should
Fun.
go down
We
there.
can add it
Yeah.
to the next
Yeah.
Mondays. So the next Monday we have. We have a lot of new permits too, but we'll,
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll
that one's
be-
easy to get through.
I'll be able to make those field viewings even though I'm not
Absolutely.
physically at the meeting.
Okay, Mosquito Control Committee.
We actually had, we've using the same vendor from last year, the Vector Disease Control Incorporated, and they gave a very good talk last year, and they'll probably be giving another one this year. They're out already doing surveillance, so doing dip testing, and we've already got some mosquitoes in some of the ditches, and so they're just waiting for their contract to be renewed with the town, and then they'll start doing treatment. But it'll be the same same people as last time.
Coastal management plan?
I will be presenting at the Selectmen's meeting next Wednesday, assuming I get everything written up and submitted to our, we're going to make a final vote on the draft, and it'll go to the Selectmen, and then it'll be up to them as to whether they accept the comment. And I'm also doing a presentation May 10th to a bunch of Selectmen from all over the Cape, along with Jeff. Jeff and I are tag teaming it.
That's right.
That is going to be the busiest weekend ever for me.
Is that going to be here on Island?
Yeah,
It's at the Brotherhood.
It's a special meeting of selectmen and counselors. And
Yeah, they do kind of a monthly meeting of selectmen and town administrators. I don't remember the actual acronym that they are, but it's the Massachusetts Association of Selectmen, or they have a fancy name. But they have regular meetings, and they kind of travel from town to town from where they are. And depending on which town they're in, a lot of times they have discussions that are pertinent to more regional issues, kind of centered around the town. So if they have it out in Springfield, they may be talking about something that's common to Springfield. Usually when it's on the coastal side, it's more related towards things like our thing is specifically on coastal erosion, but it'll also be on beaches and endangered species and those things for when they're doing coastal cities. So ours is on coastal erosion. Something I've had to sit through a lot of meetings on.
For 3 days in a row, I'm going to talk to selectmen, and then at a church, and then at an avant-garde theater in Boston.
Nice.
Day after day. I'm like, okay, that's covered the spectrum.
Good stuff.
Just can't mix up my costumes.
That could be interesting.
Okay, any other committee reports? Okay. Commissioners' comments.
Actually, I was mentioning, I was out in Wisconsin today, and I swung by the bluff. It seems to do fairly. I don't know if they've re-nourished the front of that at all. I'm curious if they've gotten to that.
I can answer that question. They actually have just submitted. I just read it earlier. They're kind of proposed how they're going to be dealing with endangered species monitoring for their delivery to the beach and all of those things that we talked about at the last meeting. It looks okay. They're going to be having Vern Locks is going to be doing their shorebird monitoring for them to get that sand down to the site, and then it was kind of the last piece for them to be able to get machinery on and off the beach to do that work. I know they had been talking about starting to stage the conveyor belt back at the top.
Yeah.
So they should be ready to go. We were just waiting to know who was going to be doing that and making sure that that person is a qualified shorebird monitor to walk their machinery on and off the beach and do their bird monitoring while they're doing any of that work. So that was their last delay.
In regards to our enforcement order, even though we have an enforcement order, we had talked about allowing them to cover the top of them or put sand in front, correct?
Correct.
Or what is
So our permissions that were granted as relief of the enforcement relate solely to the renourishment and the placement of the other required volume by the emergency certification to go back on and to get those recovered. The condition to that was their submission of information like how they're going to be dealing with plovers and things on the beach, and that was, they finally secured that individual to do that. So, and unless there's an objection to Vern, I can.
No.
That's fine. So Vern's pretty qualified for that. Top of the years off the construction guys for sure.
So I have a question, which is how to feed BAM into this, how to bring BAM into this, whether or not we can have an agreement with SPPF that he's been present enough to sit on this from now on, or is there a mechanism that allows us basically next week to close this with the conditions so that anything else has to be reopened, and in particular that we vote as a committee to close the revetment portion of this, whether or not SBPF goes along with it. We have the authority to be able to close. Am I correct in saying so?
Yes and no. The easy answer is, as it relates to BAM, I've actually asked town council for how he can get big in. He's obviously wasn't a sitting commissioner for missing less than would be 2 of the hearings. And I know that BAM has been an extremely regular attendee, especially for Wisconsin's on. and he's probably been present for those hearings. I don't believe that qualifies under Mullen rule of those things, that you were simply present, that he wasn't an acting member of the board at the time. I think that's how that's going to play out. We're just trying to confirm that for sure. Then we'd also would have to go through and confirm Bam's attendance at every one of those meetings. Fortunately, we have videotapes, and Bam likes to comment, so it's easy to find him. So that's where we are with that. The second issue with forcing the closure of a hearing is that's a little trickier because the applicant still kind of controls the ability to submit information. You could simply say, like, if you haven't submitted new information recently or plan to do so, we're going to ask that you either withdraw the application or we would like to close the hearing and then issue out an order of conditions based upon that. They kind of have I don't want to say the final say, but they have control over that a little bit. It's so that way, that protection's in place. That way, if there's a project that comes in, we just can't arbitrarily close a hearing if an applicant is still wishing to present information. They
But it
kinda
can't be held open for
Right,
a year.
is you can simply say,
think is
you
fair.
need to either provide new information, interesting, decide what you want to do, or withdraw the application. I know in that application's case, I've suggested multiple times that they're better off to withdraw and refile at some point, as there's a chance that we obviously have one new commissioner that can't sit on the hearing. The possibility remains on the 1st of July that we could have 2 more commissioners that may or may not be able to sit on that hearing. And that obviously I wouldn't want to bring an application with only 4 commissioners eligible to sit on it.
Not that one.
So, exactly. So that issue is definitely going to have to resolve pretty quickly. I mean, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but we're rapidly approaching July. So it's going to have to be resolved prior to then. So I'm trying to get them to move that along pretty quickly. I know they also indicated to me today that they should be providing a pretty substantial submission, they think, on this Friday to start to review so everyone can get comments in and questions and those things well in advance.
Can you send that link again? It's kind of hard to find on the new website.
Yep, I'll send it all out to everyone. We can go through that again. And again, like I said, with the new website, if anyone has any problems, email, call, come visit. We can get you squared away for where that stuff is.
I can find our packets fine. I don't
Packets, the
remember
other one
where
is,
the SVP
it's off of our Concom webpage itself, just the backstory filing. I've been trying to get it sorted so it will come up in chronological order by date, but for whatever reason it keeps forcing it into the order that it's in. I can't figure out how to fix it. So
Putting a number in front of it, 01, 02, 03. Do you think that might kick it out?
we tried that with a couple, and it caused the little, they call it a widget in our system, a little widget to freak out.
yeah.
So Jason's also working on it too, so we're trying to get that resolved and hopefully get it resolved very quickly.
It's totally off topic, but I found about 10 404s when I was looking for stuff.
Jason Bridges.
I'll be
Send them
happy
to
he'll be
Or if you get them to me too, I can get them to JB too. So,
well,
but-
they're not on pages you
no, that's fine. But Jason Bridges, yeah, if you find a broken link, please send it on to him or to the help desk,
Okay.
and they'll get it fixed.
Okay.
Hopefully that answered Ian's question. It's a very long answer, I think.
Well, not really, because, I mean, it does answer the question, except I just feel that we've had this long enough. And that,
I think we all feel that way.
Sorry?
I think we all feel that way.
And, you know, and I think if we all feel that way, then I'd like to see us move to close it.
Well,
And,
we
you
probably
know,
need to make decisions on the enforcement order too, on the 4 things,
Right.
for their benefit and for our benefit, so
Right.
that they can
Right.
figure out what they need to do, because that will hang over any future applications they bring forward, I think, or it should.
Well, and hopefully the submission that they're coming forward with, I mean, we've been waiting for the answers to a lot of questions, so hopefully what we get
Yeah.
this next time will help us be able
They
to
may do
figure out
it.
where we
I mean,
are.
I hate to put it all in that submission, but that may get it to a point with the GO2 project, the enforcement, and the revetment project. It may all become rather clear on how that's going to put together based upon whatever they submit. Again, I haven't seen any of it, so I don't. But as soon as I do, I'll have it to you guys. I'll probably send it to you guys directly too, and then you can dig through it, and I'll get it posted at the same time. But that way, you guys have multiple avenues to get at it.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else from the commission? Okay, Jeff.
All right, I do have a few things. First things first, we did open the two ponds yesterday and today. Sackage's opening unfortunately did not take, and it reclosed last night. As I don't say as I predicted, but as I predicted it would. But
Wasn't a good day.
it wasn't a good day. The difficulty we run into with Sackage Pond is the permit is limited to April 1st through April 15th, and to catch the right number of days with the right number of tides and the right amount of weather in a 14-day window is like trying to find a needle in 30 haystacks. I mean, it just doesn't happen. And yesterday was the 15th, so it was really the last day we had. The other issue we had this year with Sackage Pond is it was just so cold this year that the water temperatures between the ocean and the pond were not super happy. So we don't want to put the pond in a bad situation temperature-wise and water-wise to try to force it open earlier. And then there's been one individual plover that was seen for a little bit to the south of that project area, and that kind of pens it in. So we've asked for permission to try to, we're either going to have to fix the walls of the channel because they're still pretty steep and exposed because it didn't open correctly, or they're going to have to fix that and fill it in, or try to, with the conditions that are a little better, to try to open the last 10 feet, the section that closed right at the exit. But as I explained to the town manager today, that without express written permission from U.S. Fish and Wildlife, I am not going to send another machine back out there, even escorted, with our permit saying that the 15th is the last day. So I sent all that off. I think you were copied for your other job today. And, of course, every endangered species person for Mass Natural Heritage and U.S. Fish and Wildlife, we're all out of the office today. So we'll hopefully resolve that quickly. Hummock, on the other hand, opened today. The weather was really great for Hummock today. For those who haven't been following, we have our estuaries report that we got this year from SMAST on Hummock Pond, and there's been a real emphasis placed on doing a better job on dealing with the opening days and the opening times. We originally were going to do Hummock yesterday, and then as the forecast changed and the wind shifted to be from the south yesterday and from the north today, we're looking for that northerly wind. We moved Hummock to today. We have a lot more flexibility with dates for Hummock, and there's no birds there right now. So we're a little bit lucky. And the tide is very good. We're on a moon tide. So we opened it as the tide was going low, which is kind of what our target is. So to say the least, it blasted open today. It's pretty impressive. Is the channel, we've been measuring it, and there's, if you go out there, you'll see a bunch of transect stakes at the kind of where the pond proper is, and then kind of at the crest of the beach that we put in with SMAS this week, that are in 10 or 15 foot intervals. And we opened it was about 15 feet wide, and stayed and observed the channel for about half an hour. And when we left, it was sneaking up on 40 feet. So it was moving. It's one of the bigger ones I've seen. I think I'm kicking the power.
It was pretty full. It wasn't as full as I've seen it. But
No, it was definitely moving well, and with the tide going low, we're hoping that it stays open for a period of about 4 days. That seems to be our target time. We will be out. Leah from our office will be out tomorrow on the pond. We're going to do kind of a sampling regime with the pond open and then with it closed, and monitor the opening for size to try to get that one figured out. And then Sackage is going to take a little doing. We have to get a new core permit for that one through this year too. So
Why
that'll be working for
is
us.
it only a 15-day window for Sackage and more for Hummock? Is that because of
Both of
the
them,
clovers?
both of them actually have the windows of April 1st to April 30th on their original permits. Sackage has been renewed since then for whatever reason, by hook or by crook. The original license from the Corps of Engineers for Hummock Pond doesn't have an expiration date put on it, so we've never had to renew that one. Sackage Pond, unfortunately, we've had to renew, so we've gone back in and we redid the last renewal in 2008 and then extended it from 2008 to 2015. U.S. Fish and Wildlife requested then that they narrow the window down for breeding plovers from April 30th to April 15th. This is the time of year. There are plovers that are around, and this is when they're trying to establish territories on the beach. Sometimes I wish they were a little bit more flexible based upon site conditions and what's going on, and understanding that there are other parameters that are involved with how we are selecting dates and times to do this, that just simply looking at the calendar and putting a box around stuff doesn't always work. I mean, I would really have loved to have been able to say, all right, I know it's not the 15th, but the weather and conditions are much better for us on the 16th or on the 17th, to have a little bit of wiggle room to do that. That's a discussion I've tried to have a number of times and not been very successful in getting any traction with that. So it's just a very complex thing we were explaining today that we deal with, obviously, with our estuary and TMDL requirements from the state and Mass DEP for those ponds. We have Division of Marine Fisheries who are trying to help us maintain some of the marine fisheries that are in some of these ponds for herring, or for Sacajawea actually has a few winter flounder that are in there, and American oyster that are in there. The endangered species people, we have plovers and then terns in the summer, and plovers from now until September. The Corps just wants us to have our paperwork done and complete, but their dog and fight is pretty small. But a lot of these things don't, the Division of Marine Fisheries and DEP's goals for water and for the fisheries don't mesh very well with the timing for the birds. And to try to have all of those three groups sit down at the table and have that discussion too has just never happened. They don't participate well with one another.
They've all got their own agendas.
Yes,
for sure.
and
Do we need a beach conference in the middle of July or beginning of August? Or
so it would be nice, because we get stuck as a town in the middle of all of these competing interests and competing goals, and then the big trick with all of them is to get the right weather and the right tide in those two. So it's like getting drawn in court, to be completely honest with you, because I can never seem to get it to fit correctly when we try to schedule it to do it. And I mean, I view the pond openings a little bit for what it's worth, as some of the things that are there that we're looking at the system as a whole instead of just a singular piece, because we have to weigh all of those things in instead of just one specific interest, and are trying to balance all of those out. And then catching the weather and the tide right, and we all know weather in April in Nantucket is severely erratic and can be pretty severe. So, I mean, I can't say I was hugely thrilled with opening Sacajawea Pond with a wind yesterday kind of coming out of the southwest at 30 miles an hour. And then getting to open it late in the day for a mechanical issue with the excavator, and getting the tide going high instead of going low. It just, I knew it was going to close when I left, and when I went out at 7 o'clock this morning and it was closed, I was not surprised. That's just, so we're trying to solve that. That being said, a couple other issues quickly. An issue that we need to get back on top of a little bit, and I apologize that this is my fault that we haven't been more, and it was brought up at our last meeting. We're still dealing with the enforcement action against the town for the Hummock Pond Road bike path, constructed wetland-ish thing that's there. We don't really, the one kind of, for typical enforcements, the one kind of hammer that we always have is we have the ability to start levying fines. The problem with levying a fine against the town is then writing a check to pay the town. And our fining money, it doesn't go to some magic fund that we get to spend for conservation efforts or things. It's fines and things go to the town general fund. So it would be the town paying themselves to themselves. So fines aren't really an option in this case. I've been trying to explore it a little bit and haven't gotten a lot of reception to it, and I'm not surprised why. We obviously have an active application dealing with a similar project from the town that to make some headway on the enforcement action before we take action or positive determination on the other. I'm not sure if we can legally do that, and I'm trying to sort that out. But we need to do something to incentivize the town bringing that wetland back into compliance and getting it back in shape. I meant to get out there today, and I unfortunately did not because the pond opening. But if anyone has any thoughts or ideas, I would love to hear them. Just to try to get it moving. I mean, it's a situation that we need to rectify pretty quickly. We're obviously moving into the planting season here. We're kind of already in it.
Should we send a letter specifically from us to Kara and just say we're getting really concerned that this isn't being addressed?
We certainly can. I would love to have some sort of and I'm happy to draft one, and we can even do it kind of in the interim. Something that I feel there I don't want to say, a carrot in front of the horse here, but there needs to be something that demonstrates that we're not just going to send letter after letter
No,
saying,
just-
please.
We could say, we're going to look, further applications will be viewed with, what's a nice way of saying
Put it in
that?
the order of conditions, you got to finish the other one before you sign off on this one.
Well, I'm not sure we can do that, and that's
Yeah.
one of the things I'm trying to look at. Is I don't think you can stop a different,
More,
especially because
yeah.
the applicant on the other one is Mass Department of Transportation. I'm not sure that we can hold up their permit on a project, but there's got to be some mechanism for us to deal with enforcement actions against the municipality, other than fining, because fining clearly isn't the answer.
Well,
'Cause like I said-
refuse to countenance any future applications from the town until it's resolved.
So,
So,
And there's more than just the bike path.
right.
Oh, there's another big project out there.
yeah, I mean, the other enforcement action that's Council Bluff is against the town as well. So, there are a couple we need to resolve. Anything we can do, because we need to get that one moving again and moving in a positive direction, because it kind of stalled out over the winter when plantings couldn't occur. And
Can we go to the Board of Selectmen instead of going to the DPW? The selectmen aware that, we have 2 enforcement orders.
that may be one avenue, is to write a letter to the board that
Yeah.
says we currently have two enforcement actions that are open. We're concerned that they need to be addressed
Before
and
anything else. is
Before
addressed.
anything else comes before. That may be a good avenue to go. So, again,
I think if we remind them, and I don't think it's their fault necessarily, just different things come up to your mind. And have to
Well,
be-
I think in the case of Hummock Pond, obviously, they didn't do a proper job through the winter, and I should have been more on top of it too, of maintaining some of the erosion control measures. But planting and planting windows seem to get lost through the winter when you're not thinking about it, especially when you're distracted by another project of great magnitude elsewhere. The
Yeah.
little wetland on the corner of Millbrook and Hummock Pond Road kind of gets pushed away. So.
But that's something we should remind. I think everyone's aware of that. And wasn't there a letter this week?
I think a letter to the selectmen is a good
Sure.
idea.
I think, and
Well,
saying
why don't-
you can't blow off everything else just
Right.
because you're busy.
But I'll draft that, and I'll put that together, and I'll circulate that around. Again, please send all comments to me and not around. We can adjust that, and then we can even set it up to, we'll have it ready for the next meeting. We can get that sent out and around. But I think that'd be good. Especially we can even incorporate the other one to say, hey, we need everyone to get back on track. That I think would be good. But it'd be good to make some good progress on those two, especially. The last thing, and this is kind of a nitpicky thing for me, this is my paranoia, I guess. Everyone needs to be careful that when you comment on things, whether it's online or things, if we start to stack up commissioners in even comment boxes that are there, be very careful. I know it's really easy to do, like if you're on Facebook or those things, and we get 3 or 4 commissioners that comment on a photo or something that's there. If you 3 are there and someone wants to get really, really pushy, just warning everyone, just be careful. I'm not saying don't do it, please.
Well, if it's on music or stuff, you
Yeah,
can't not be a human being.
Right.
just
If it's
because-
related to something that's an open application
Yeah.
in front of the board,
Sure, that's clear.
or a permit that's open, please be careful. Like, if it's a picture of someone playing hockey and you said that was a great goal, and all 7 of you put it down, that's fine and fantastic. If it's pictures that relate to other projects, open permits, please be careful. If you see that 2 or 3 of you have commented, you might want to wait to the next picture or something else that's come through your comments. But just be careful. I know it's come up elsewhere and with other groups, and I try to keep track of these things going on around even the Commonwealth or things that are there. So just wanted to give everyone a friendly
And you'll
reminder.
know we're being watched by certain folks. So.
Oh, yeah. Especially for erosion project where those things usually show up the most and things that are there. So
This is my telegenic side, incidentally.
exactly. So just be careful. Again, please exercise your right as people to comment and comment on things, but be a little cautious too when it comes to issues that we hear. But that's it for me.
You help me remember something. My students are presenting their research from the last 3 months tomorrow night from 6 to 8 at the Athenaeum. And they've got a oyster research project, a couple on water quality, eels, I guess, got somewhere on eels, erosion. So It's just a poster thing. There'll be food. Should be nice.
What time, Sarah?
6 to 8 o'clock.
I do have one more thing,
It
too.
doesn't run all night. It's just, they'll get up, say, hey, I'm blah, blah, I did my research on eels. And then
It's going to be, where's this going to be?
Athenaeum's
Athenaeum.
Great Hall.
Oh, okay.
Yep. It's obviously free. So it's nice to come see the research. They did some really cool stuff in Squam on the trees, a lot of work on soils. The dollar amount behind this research just in instrumentation was probably in the $50,000 zone. And the labor and help that we had from on islands probably in the $10,000 to $20,000 zone. So a lot of resources went into, and a lot of people on the island really helped. So big thank you to everybody, and we'll see you tomorrow night.
I got one more thing, too. Sarah reminded me of something now that I remember of something. Just want to let you guys know, too, for those who missed it or haven't seen, we've been working on the implementation of the fertilizer regulations in Article 68. I don't have the exact number on me, but we've now put through the course that UMass Extension put on, either via sitting in this room and watching it on video or being live. We've put through right around 265 commercial landscapers through it. And we've been out and around. I know we've issued a number of warning tickets and other tickets in the last couple of weeks for fertilizers. The 15th is the magic date by the regulations that people can start. It's been pretty good. We've had a lot of really good feedback on it, and I think it's pretty impressive that landscapers came out in enough numbers to sneak up on 300. And we've had a number of people inquire about additional classes and things, and we've had a pretty good response for people interested in kind of the Article 68 review committee that we're taking applications for. So if anyone is interested in that or knows someone that may be interested in sitting on that committee, just shoot me an email and I'll send out an application for it. Not that you guys aren't busy enough, but you may know people that are interested. Or if you know any other landscapers that haven't taken the class or haven't heard about it, please let them know to get in touch with me, because we're going to be setting up more classes, and we're also looking to try to set up some other classes that are not focused as much on turf as the first section was, that are more focused on trees and shrubs and gardens. We've had some requests for vegetable gardens and some other things. We're going to try to be as diverse as possible. But it's going well. To give an update to the Board of Health tomorrow night about it.
Did you ever get a translator to teach it?
We've been working on a live person to do it. I actually spoke to a gentleman in New Jersey. I apologize for not remembering his name. It's escaping me. Who's an agronomy professor down in New Jersey, who is also bilingual.
Yeah.
He's expressed an interest in it. We just can't seem to get together enough to figure out whether it will work and whether his dates will work.
Yeah.
And the other guy I found is a gentleman in California, and he asked we'd have to pay for him to come out and do those things, and that gets a little bit more problematic than something from New Jersey. So hopefully it will work out. At worst comes to worst, we need to find a way. We've had a lot of requests for even if just the video that was there was dubbed over in Spanish, that it would be beneficial.
And maybe funny.
Yeah, that may be what we resort to in the short term.
First try, anyways. It would seem like just
So,
yeah.
but what we found the one thing we found kind of interesting, a lot of the crews at least usually have someone that's out with the crew that's a bilingual English and Spanish speaker, and most of the companies are sending that person for sure to come out. So he's their licensed individual on the site when they're going to actually apply product. But everyone so far has been really receptive to the class, so hopefully they're getting some good use out of it. More importantly, we're building a pretty mean database to get a hold of landscapers. And those things, that was a real big challenge. And also just making sure that everyone knew that the BMP and the regulations existed. So there's really not an excuse anymore. If you get that many people going through the class, word gets around that it's there. And anyone that we've run into that has claimed they didn't know when they got their ticket or their warning,
unlikely.
you know, gets the, here's where you can find it. This is when the classes are. We better see you there. So it's been going well.
Oh, I've got something that just came to mind talking about that.
It's never going to end.
No, we thought it was going to be short, but here we go. The Invasive Plant Species Committee, at our last meeting, we talked about trying to find a source of local plant material, I mean truly local. material, which isn't really out there yet. But apparently, the Poly Hill Arboretum is developing local plants on the vineyard, which are, probably more similar to our Nantucket plants than things from God knows where. So something for the commission to think about is if we'd like to perhaps start directing people to that source when they're doing restorations in our jurisdiction.
Interesting to put it out to the nurseries around here and the farms. I mean,
Well, we're
We're trying
talking
to,
to
yeah.
Craig Benny.
here's a
and
nice little
Morris Center.
market for you that people are looking. Yeah.
It's your retirement business.
We're trying to talk them into it. I mean, it takes a lot of space and time.
Yeah, I
There are a
suspect
couple,
it does.
couple that are interested.
And you sort of need a critical mass of just people who want to do it. We're not going to be able to generate enough business on this commission.
Yeah.
But
But the other, since I'm going to be gone on the 30th, though, on the phone, that talk from Cornelia Dean and Rob Young on geotubes and other types of coastal erosion structures is rescheduled for May 13th. That'll be before, I think, the next Concom meeting that I'm back on, so I think it's at 6, I'm not sure, but you can go online, but I'm sure of the date.
did everybody get that email I sent around from Monica, or from
Erica?
Erica?
For the COI, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, yeah.
We do that every year.
How do you find
out just the form?
It's actually pretty easy. I can
When you go
help
to
you.
print, you just say to print that, what that
print
page
the page.
number
Try to
is.
do that.
Yeah.
I get read the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to remember, I usually had to do it for like 3 different commissions, but I think in the past they just took one printout and just,
They should
One
just-
size fits
yeah.
all.
Yep.
yeah.
If you're on one, take it and you're covered for if you're on 30
Yeah.
committees, whether you're on one committee.
Yeah.
So
You could just
you'll be
take it
good.
to Erica and then list at the bottom the
Yep.
things you're on.
She has a list too, so you take one in.
Paul is raring to go.
Yeah.
It's just stretching.
Okay. Move to adjourn, or?
Yeah.
All in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Anybody?
Talk
Okay,
to
we're
yourself.
adjourned.
All right, just fair warning to those of you who will be here next time. Next meeting is going to be really long. We got a lot of new applications, and then in-town bike path and Scottsdale Beach Back. So you might want to bring a snack. You might want to bring yourself something to
He's
drink.
sitting in an airport probably having a cocktail.
That's
But
not fair.
I will call in. I have at least 3 hours, 3.5 hours for I have to get on the flight, so
My mic won't turn off.
my mic won't turn off.
Yeah, I'll be there all day tomorrow. We're not open at 5.